was a 5-4 on an extremely busy second period where the Vancouver Canucks score 3 times. JT Miller gets a hat trick. The Minnesota Wild score twice, get awarded a third goal somehow, some way, and have not only a 5-on-3 in the period, but have a second 5-on-3 that the Vancouver Canucks are going to need to kill off into the third period. Plenty of happenings in that period.
Yeah, it was very busy, and that is why you have video review. That was nowhere close to being a goal. It wasn't debatable. Somehow the refs thought that was, and you know what? To their credit, that's the cleaner way to go because they know they've got video review in their back pocket. So it's better to call the goal and then take it off the board than have to prove a goal. So Canucks dodge a bullet there, but they are back to the penalty kill. Third 5-on-3 on the other side of the intermission, and they're tempting fate here. I mean, this is, they were undisciplined in a different way a little bit last game. We talked about discipline penalty-wise a little bit coming into this game based on what we saw versus the Jets, but they were also just undisciplined in terms of being tempted into the physicality. This is just your straight-up stay out of the box, guys. You've got to manage the parade to the penalty box here. And you dominated the Wild over the first 10 minutes of that second period. Handing them 5-on-3s is just giving them a lifeline. Like, this game should be over at this point.
Yeah, it will be 48 seconds of 5-on-3 play off the top of the third period with Elias Pettersson in the box for hooking. The call late on Kirill Kaprizov during a drive to the net that sees two Canucks players, Pettersson, Hronek, and Kaprizov, all in tight quarters, bumping Casey DeSmith, knocking the net off its moorings. And that's how this puck, which originally squirts by wide, winds up tucking in underneath the net and looking like a goal for a moment. But review gets it right, as you point out. But the Minnesota Wild, after getting behind 5-2 in this period, the desperation that we were talking about in the last intermission for a team that's scratching and clawing to try and stay in this playoff race shows. So that's where we stand going into the third. Let's get to the earlier happenings in this second period. Elias Pettersson makes a 3-1 for the Canucks, his 29th goal, assisted by his fellow Swedes, Nils Höglander and Elias Lindholm. 5.5 minutes into the period, ends a fantastic shift for that trio.
Whipping the puck around.
We talked about how quiet they were in the first period. They were much better in the second period. That was a wrist shot from the slot from Pettersson. It had the shots at just 9-8 at that point for Vancouver, but notable because, number one, Minnesota actually ended the first period with just the 8 shots. They took one away from them. And Vancouver had the first 7 shots of the second period, including the Pettersson goal. In fact, the Wild don't get a shot in the period until 9 minutes in. Vancouver went long stretches in the first period without a shot. Minnesota goes 9 minutes between shots off the top of the second period before registering a shot. It was an Eriksson Ek chance where he beats Besser for a shorthanded sort of partial breakaway. Nice save by Casey DeSmith. Did well to come out, cut down the angle. And then Vancouver scores on JT Miller's second goal of the game. It's a power play marker. We talked about Besser playing at home, that he had looked active in the first period. He gets one of the assists. He does a nice job screening goaltender on the shot. Quinn Hughes also.
But where does JT Miller get that goal? He gets that goal skating downhill from the blue line in and picks his
that's
spot.
The next one.
No, that's the long distance shot. And
that's the 5-2 goal, Blake. We're talking the 4-1 goal on the power play, where they break the 0-for-20 slump. Yeah, I know. Lots of JT Miller.
No, the JT Miller rush goal is his third hat trick goal.
Yes.
That's not what I'm talking about.
Yes, we're talking about the second JT Miller goal.
Right,
of
the goal
game.
from distance. The goal from distance. Yeah, he just snaps that
that's
shot.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the 4-1 goal that breaks the 0-for-20
But that's what I'm
slump.
talking about. So that's a goal where he's skating into the shot from the blue line, which is what we talked about in the first intermission. More on the left side of the ice than down the middle, which is where he is. But that's why him trapped either as a net front or as a bumper, is it the best use of that shot that he's got? Because it's heavy, it's accurate. I mean, he's picking posts and crossbars all season long. Like, I hope that Rick Tocchet sees that goal and says, right, that's what he can do.
Now, it does come from the center, not necessarily off the flank, but I got confused for a second. You said he's coming downhill because he really comes downhill on the next goal.
Yeah.
The 5-2 goal. 4 goals on 11 shots at that point in the hockey game for the Vancouver Canucks. And then they give one up to Matthew Boldy, who's been very active in this hockey game alongside one of his line mates, Joel Eriksson Ek. In fact, 2 fantastic plays here, one by the defenseman John Merrill to get the puck out from below his goal line, then a second from Eriksson Ek to find Boldy, who had crept and snuck behind the defense pair of Quinn Hughes and Philip Hronek. It was just the 3rd Minnesota shot of the period, but it's in the net, and it's a 2-goal game again. And then, and here's something that we may be noting in future shows, here's something that I'm sure that Jeff Patterson will have more on with Rink-Wide Vancouver, dropping about an hour and a half after the end of this hockey game. Connor Garland, first of all, a Wild player takes a dangerous run at him near the bench. And then later in the period, Garland is down and he can't get up. It looks like he blocks a shot with his right leg, although both legs seem to be in peril on the replay. He's helped off. He is bearing some weight on the leg, but he goes to the room, as does Tyler Myers, but Myers returns. Already lost one member of that famed third line that has done such great work with Dakota Joshua week to week after the fight with Mackenzie Entwistle of the Chicago Blackhawks earlier in the week. And now looking at a prospect of Connor Garland, perhaps missing some time if he can't get back into this hockey game.
I mean, if he's injured off that, my goodness, the fine margins there, because he's hit on the knee. I mean, if that puck hits,
he's sort of turning his knee, and we think it might have found
probably hit the foam, the surrounding pads, I would guess, not the shell is the problem, I would guess. But it's so close to just being off the cap of the knee pad, and probably you don't feel anything at all. So this would be a really bad luck if he's injured off this, because it must have missed by centimeters the knee cap of the knee pad, of the shin pad, and he would have been just fine. So let's hope he's okay. I would guess, Matt, that even if he's officially uninjured, like there's no broken bones or anything like that, he's going to be really sore tomorrow.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so even if he's uninjured, quote unquote, I still think that's time for Archie Bains.
Yeah. Well, we talked about in the first intermission that, maybe Archie Bains could have gotten this game coming off a loss against Winnipeg. Back-to-backs tomorrow, Denver, Colorado Avalanche, one of these top 10 teams that the Canucks, and I had to look it up today because I got so sick of the narrative. Oh, the Canucks struggle against the best teams in the league. They're 7-6-1 against the current top 10 in the National Hockey League. And in fact, if you extend that to include Edmonton, Tampa Bay, and Philadelphia, who are very close to the top 10 points wise, they're even better. So, they haven't been as great as they've been outside.
It's very strictly the top 5 where you get the bad stats.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think anybody in the top 10 is capable of winning the Stanley Cup.
So perhaps Bains tomorrow. This also underlines the need for depth prior to the March 8th trade deadline, right? You're going to have injuries in the Stanley Cup playoffs. So who are you coming with? Well, it looks like in the near term, the immediate term, it's going to be Archie Bains. But what do Rick Tocchet, Patrick Elvine, and Jim Rutherford want to go to in reserve in the Stanley Cup playoff? They already got Phil DiGiuseppe playing in this hockey game. Let's rewind for a second. 14 and a half minutes into the period, JT Miller completes the hat trick. He scores for a second time in the period, third time for the game, his 27th of the season. An assist to Pius Suter. We talked about how Suter might have been a little unlucky not to get a second assist earlier in the game. He's got a couple of assists now after this Miller goal, and his first hat trick since January of 2022, the third of his career. And this is just an all-world play. To somehow reel in and control the puck in the neutral zone at flight. He walks Zach Bogosian. That's the downhill that I was talking about, Blake.
That's a top Bertuzzi goal. Like that is just a spectacular
walks
hockey goal.
Bogosian and goes upstairs, short side on Gustafsson to score. You could hear a woo from the ambient mic. I'm pretty sure it was either JT Miller or one of his teammates who were mightily impressed with the effort, and they had every reason to be. That's just a gorgeous goal.
The puck is in the neutral zone, and it is equidistant between Bogosian and Miller for a moment. There's a second there where Bogosian should be able to reach out and stop Miller from getting that puck. Miller, quick with the hands, though, right before he hits the blue line of the Wild, reels that puck in, gets it under control, and then makes the quick move to get around. Like, reel it all the way back to that neutral zone play, because that was a tough puck. It was a little bit waffly too. He calms it, makes the, it's gorgeous. Those two goals in particular are works of art for JT Miller.
And Dave Tomlinson said on the television side that, Bogosian couldn't pivot. JT Miller is such a smart hockey player. You wonder whether he realized in that flash of an instant, he's going up against big, old Zach Bogosian, who may not have the flexibility, the dexterity that he once did, that granite block defenseman. Let's see if he can pivot quickly as he makes his drive to the net. At that point, it is 5 goals on 16 shots in this hockey game for the Vancouver Canucks.
But look at the quality of the goal. So for people that say, there's going to be regression,
the Pettersson shot, the Miller drive.
Those are spectacular goals.
Yes, they sure are.
So really, and that's why the Canucks might be a little bit more regression proof than some other teams is. Those are just uber skilled plays. Yep. That's why they're scoring.
Yeah, a little bit lucky on the first Miller goal, the second of the game with a nice bounce off the end boards. Yeah. The Ian Cole goal is pretty good too, Blake. I mean, he puts a good shot on the net with traffic there.
Lucky they didn't get the penalty call. I guess.
Yeah, very lucky.
So there's your luck there.
Yeah, a little bit of an interference.
Yeah.
There, a pick on Myers that goes uncalled. Nevertheless, so it's 5-2, and it's looking like an easy night for the Vancouver Canucks. 3-goal lead, and then the penalties start. Nikita Zadorov goes for 2 minutes for holding. Teddy Bluger goes 2 minutes for high sticking. It's a minute 9 of 5-on-3. And of course, a minute 27, 5-on-3 in the first period against the Vancouver Canucks. And then their penalty killing does sensational work. Tyler Myers clears the zone off the draw. Minnesota recoups, regains the zone. Elias Lindholm clears. You fight off most of that 5-on-3 until, you want to talk unlucky goals, Matt Zuccarello, side of the net, looking for the centering pass, or maybe he is looking to deflect one of the Vancouver Canucks, but it deflects off Ian Cole. It's behind Casey DeSmith in the net, 30 seconds left in the period, 5-3 Vancouver. Kaprizov, Eriksson Ek draw assists on the goal. But at that stage, Minnesota down 2, and then things got a little dicey for the Canucks because maybe they thought they're ending the period at that point, but there was still 30 seconds left. And that's when this disallowed goal happened. This goal that was reversed on review happened where the Canucks were a little asleep towards the end of the period.
Yeah, and now they're going to start the third, of course, still killing off the Pettersson penalty, and it's going to be a bit of a test. This is not the same as facing off against the Bruins or the Jets like they did last week, but it's a hungry team. They can play fast and heavy, and I don't think you want to make this a 1-goal game for the Vancouver Canucks. It's a big kill,
especially since the trio of Boldy, Eriksson Ek, and Kaprizov have been pretty damn good all afternoon.
Yeah.
Eriksson Ek has a goal and 2 assists for 3 points in this hockey game. Boldy with a goal and an assist for 2, and Kaprizov with a pair of helpers. In fact, John Merrill's been part of that as well on the defensive side.
Boldy's already got 3 shots on goal, 4 attempts. He's been very, very active.
Right, and the shots right now, 17-16 for the Minnesota Wild, which says something about the second half of that second period, because as mentioned, the Wild went 9 minutes before getting their first shot on goal. They had 8 more after that. The Canucks put 12 on Gustafsson. That's a tidy period for them, but just 4 in the first period. So you have 33 shots combined in this hockey game, Blake, and we've got 8 goals and nearly had a 9th.
Yeah, it's a weird one. It is, but it goes back to what do we say about Casey DeSmith in the first period of mission? he does enough to get you points. He's going to be under some pressure here in the third period, but he's put them in position to get points. It's up to the Vancouver Canucks, I think, to play some good hockey in front of him and make sure that he's not under full siege here in the third period, particularly once they get back to 5-on-5.
Yeah, and of course, the Vancouver Canucks are also going to have to overcome maybe thinking this game is over at 5-2, because for a second there, it looked like the Wild spirit was broken, that they had done enough in the game to be better off than 2 or 3 goals down, and yet they found some pep in their step in the second part of that second period. And of course, you would have hoped for this game to go quietly into the night for the first of a second of back-to-back, of course, against the Colorado Avalanche in Denver tomorrow. So we'll be looking to see if Connor Garland emerges from the dressing room into this third period. The immediate results looked awful because Garland was down, not even making an attempt to get up. Then when he made his first attempt to get up, it was quickly aborted. It looked a lot better after the training staff got out to him and he was bearing some weight on it, but we'll see whether or not he's able to continue or whether he's going to miss the third period of this game, in which case the Canucks down to 11 forwards. And you wonder how much they're going to use Nils Amon and Phil DiGiuseppe, especially if Minnesota gets to within a goal.
Again, we'll just assume that he's not officially quote unquote injured, but I think most of our listeners and viewers have felt a puck hit the human anatomy, and it hurts. It hurts a lot. So I don't know that we see the whites of Garland's eyes the rest of this game. But we'll see. I mean, maybe it hit a nerve or something. Who knows? But he looked like he was in an awful lot of pain. So I would suspect that the Canucks are forward down here for the final 20 minutes.
Yeah, just haven't seen the Canucks update anything on their social media channels. So here's the deal. If this is a wild and crazy third period, we'll be right back here with a live post game on, if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. If not, we'll hand it over to Jeff Patterson and Rink Wide Vancouver, as mentioned, about 90 minutes after the game. Canucks having to kill off this 5-on-3. And Blake, our show, as always, a presentation of Applewood Auto.
Applewood Infinity in Langley has the QX50 and the QX55 right now with lease terms of 1.99% on all trims. Plus, you get $1,500 in bonus cash as well. So that's at Applewood Infinity in Langley. It's all good at Applewood.
And Marc-Andre Fleury out for the third period here as Minnesota goes goaltender change after 40. Hey, everybody, if you're enjoying what you're seeing here, then follow along with Sekeres Price on YouTube. I promise more content coming.
The kids call it subscribe on YouTube.
Well, how about liking it?
Do that as well. Smash it right now.